Well, good morning. That's it. That's the pod. Good morning, and welcome into a breaking news edition of PHNX Sun Devils, of course, brought to you by our friends over at Branded Bills. Head to brandedbills.com, use code BBPHNX for 15% off your first order. And we've got some news kind of to talk about this morning, as according to On3, Sam Leavitt's return to Arizona State next year is doubtful, and his camp is, quote, shopping him at a very high level. But we've got denying of those reports courtesy of Dallin Leavitt, Sam Leavitt's brother, who screenshotted a text message between him and Pete Nakos where he said, "Why would you report that? That is not accurate." Sam is still deciding on what to do next. We're going to talk about what's going on both sides of things, how we feel, maybe a little gut check, a little jelly check. But Deli Man, good morning to you. We'll still have a show here later today with the full crew, but how are you feeling about hearing this news this morning?
Um, it was unexpected, you know. I was expecting to be talking about could Jordan Tyson return all week. I wasn't expecting to be talking about the transfer portal on November 18th. But
Yeah.
that's just what this is now. That's what the college football landscape is now. Yeah, it's weird timing with the report coming out, and like it just feels like I don't know. When there's smoke, there's fire, but at the same time, I don't like. I'm not buying into anything until we hear from Kenny and hear from Sam and hear like this is all just a talking point until there's something concrete.
So we have Sweet Prince Kenny, aka Donald, in the chat, which it's always good to have him in the chat, even if the circumstances maybe aren't ideal right now, who says, "Calm me down because I'm hot right now." So here's kind of my takeaway on things and how I read the situation. I don't think that On3 would run with completely nothing. I do not think that they are just pulling this out of their ass and making up that there has been some sort of conversation. Now, with the way that they phrased it, it definitely does not sound like they got any sort of information from Sam Leavitt's camp himself. And that in its own right is most likely why his brother would go out there and say this isn't true, because Sam hasn't made up his mind yet. Look, the reality of the situation is, in the modern era of college athletics, when you can go out there and get generational money to play football when you are in your early 20s, or hell, even your late teens in certain senses, you kind of have to play the game. And I would have been shocked if Sam Leavitt didn't at least see what type of money and what type of situation he could end up with if he were to leave Arizona State this season and enter the transfer portal. So that, I think, is in one bucket, and his season is over. And maybe there have been preliminary conversations or reaching out about, hey, what would this look like? Or hell, I'm sure it's been the other way around, with somehow the schools finding ways to contact his camp, his family, to at least ask what his future is. I think it's completely understandable for a kid in his early 20s who just underwent the season he went with the injuries to be uncertain about his future, and also to be maybe possibly interested in what else could be out there in college football. But Shane, my gut is telling me not to worry about this, because I think all of this is just part of playing the game. I do not think that because this report came out, Sam Leavitt's done at Arizona State.
Yeah. If this report had come out and said Sam Leavitt probable to enter the transfer portal, I would be like, okay, that would literally change nothing because everybody is almost probable to enter the transfer portal, eh, and not in the literal sense where their name is put in the hat, but everybody is testing the waters. That's just what college football is nowadays. Sure, Sam has had conversations. Everybody's had conversations. To me right now, like this is such a distraction and a weird thing, and it's not Sam's fault by any means. Like he did not he does not want this report to come out. He did not like he's not pushing this report out himself. This is just the nature of how things go. I'm not worried because one, if he is leaving, he's leaving for a price tag, and that's well within his reason. But you're not in a world where you can allocate all of your money to be keeping one player when you have so many other things to address. And two, I'm not worried because of the coach at the helm. He's going to make sure that the right thing is in place, and I'm sure he's going to have some conversations with Sam. This is a nothing thing to me right now. Again, until I hear more concrete like stuff from his camp, from the team, there's no point in worrying because it's November 18th. What this is affecting isn't affecting the Big 12 championship, isn't affecting the game against Colorado, isn't affecting the Territorial Cup. This is all going to impact next year. And you know what next year is going to look like? Nothing like this year anyway. So you just got to wait and see. There's no point in stressing over it right now.
But I get it. I get it. I mean, as an ASU fan right now, this guy is very good. He has led you to a Big 12 championship already. You have been imagining what this season would look like if he remained fully healthy. And the prospect of him coming back another year, not going to the NFL this year, became very enticing to what next year could look like for Arizona State and for Kenny Dillingham. And while I do trust that Kenny Dillingham will figure it out, especially at the quarterback position, let's not act like finding guys like Sam Leavitt is necessarily easy. So, as an ASU fan, knowing that you are like very likely to lose Jordan Tyson to the NFL draft, that is, I feel like, way more likely than losing Sam Leavitt to anything. And then the now possibility that's been floated out there in, again, the middle of November that Sam might be leaving for another school. Well, that's unfortunate. Now, I do think that it says a lot that not only does his brother deny the reports, but he does so emphatically, posting screenshots, literally reported this, have a good track record. I trust the guys at On Three. I think they have a good track record, but I do think that this is interesting and honestly not that great of a look from the On Three guys to where they reach out to Sam Leavitt's camp, aka his brother. And clearly, there's text messages before this point of contact has been made before, and telling them exactly what the report is and what they're running with. The response from Dallin Levitt of why would you do that? That's not where things are right now. He's still deciding what he wants to do. To still run with that report to me feels a little irresponsible. Not that I think the information they're getting from the other side is technically false, but when you go directly to a source, I mean, I guess as directly as possible besides Sam Levitt, and the response is, why would you do that? That's not accurate. I do think that as a reporter, you have a responsibility to at least mention that in your reporting. At least mention the fact that it has been denied personally by his camp, because that is not how that happened. And it took a response to really not calm down the fires, but at least to bring a differing perspective. But I do find, Shane, it interesting, the wording of he's still deciding what he wants to do. It's not, hey, why would you do that? Sam's fully committed to Arizona State and he wants to be back next year. It's, hey, why would you do that? A decision has not been made, which I also think in turn will probably worry some Arizona State fans who thought that there was zero chance that he went anywhere.
Yeah. Uh, Yeah, this. Sorry, I'm just reading more into this. Um, it would be I don't know. I don't think it's irresponsible to still run with it and not mention it because clearly there's reporting that's been done and you feel confident enough to release that story as it is. Like this is just the world of what media is. You're not always going to like what's written about you. You're not always going to like what's said. And if it comes out that this reporting was done because of some very niche thing and it was irresponsible, then it is what it is. But right now it's hard for me to speculate that anybody is in the wrong here. This is just kind of the nature of what college football is.
I think you need to mention it. I don't think you need to completely go back on your reporting and say, hey, I can't actually run with this at all. But if you reach out directly to a source and they say, hey, that's not true, even if it's just in your article, you got to go in there and say, this has been denied by this, but, we stand by a report or whatever. At least in my opinion, obviously, that's not like the biggest deal right now. The biggest deal is what's going on with Sam Leavitt. What does the future hold? I think there's an interesting point in chat, Shane, that we can dive in here from McKay, talking about how ASU has been very emphatic about wanting people who want to be here, right? And Kenny has been at the forefront of that messaging, saying, if you don't want to be at Arizona State, that is okay. Door is open on your way out. We'll give you a letter of recommendation and we'll wish you the best, but you're not going to be here. The fact that Sam is still technically thinking about what he wants to do. Now, for all we know, that could also involve going into the draft as well, even though a lot of us think that's unlikely. You have to imagine that is at least part of what might be weighing on his mind. I also think that when you look at the idea of the money side of things, also, Sam Leavitt got injured this season for a lot of different reasons, including his play style, but part of it was that they couldn't protect him to save their life. It could be for, hey, I want the healthiest and longest career in the future, and I don't know if I'm confident that Arizona State can give me that. Maybe they can, but we don't know how he feels. You know, being undecided is completely valid and completely fair, especially for somebody his age and his position with the amount of options that, again, could end up being life changing if they not already are life changing when it comes to a monetary perspective. However, Kenny Dillingham is very much in the boat of, if you are not 100% committed to Arizona State, you will not be at Arizona State. So I do wonder what the line is with a guy like Sam Leavitt. I do wonder if the decision is not as much, do I want to stay at Arizona State or go to another school, or do I want to take the next step and begin my pro career and start counting down the clock to that first extension in the NFL as a quarterback, which really is generational life-changing money. I am curious how they are going to navigate, Shane, the possibility of their best player on the roster next year, presumably, maybe not fitting into the idea of, you are 100% committed to being here. And if you are thinking about going anywhere else or you're not all in, you can just go.
Yeah, but I think there's a difference in entering the transfer portal and visiting options and seeing if you want to stay at ASU than, like, I think it's irresponsible to just think you're going to be here forever and
Sure.
not explore any options. And I think Kenny understands that. I think we think that there might have been some of that from his end when he might not have been getting what he wanted. And there's a lot of games being played behind the scenes, and you can speculate all you want, but like nobody knows what Sam wants to do except for Sam. Not
Mm-hmm.
even his family. Like, those conversations can be as real as possible, but you go to bed thinking one thing, you wake up thinking another. Like, there are so many factors to this, and again, we have no idea what caused the report to come out. We have no idea what the extent is. The labeling a player to come back in the portal as it's an injury is weird enough as it is. Like, again, I think it's irresponsible to not weigh options. And if the
Sure.
report came out because the camp was weighing options, then it is what it is. But putting a doubtful tag on it is just a little strange to me. And
Yeah.
that's where
Yeah.
I'm interested to see why that part of it came out.
I think this in general, like you mentioned, I think this is weird, right? This is weird that we're getting this news right now. This is weird that immediately we get a public denial from his brother. And to do this all while the guy's not even a month off of, being, starting his recovery from an injury. It's all strange. It's all weird. Entering the college football and a star quarterback switching schools is not weird. I know that we are spoiled here at Arizona State with the amount of returning talent that we've had under Kenny Dillingham after the Big 12 championship. It's not weird for a quarterback to go out there and to test his options. Now, again, I'm the same guy who sat here over the season and said, if Sam Leavitt does return to college football, I'm confident he returns to Arizona State. I'm still confident, but I will say that this report is the first time that I don't think I've completely lost that confidence, but I am keeping my eye on and thinking about things because sometimes you do just assume that the best case scenario is going to happen. And especially with the way that things have been run at Arizona State and with the way that Sam Leavitt has outwardly shown how much he cares about this program, how much he cares about Kenny Dillingham. I mean, whether it's crying after the college football playoff loss or putting his body through hell to try to at least play this season, right? When you look at stuff like that and you look at the care factor of this guy, it's hard to imagine that he jumped ship. But I think it's also unfair to completely look at it as jumping ship when this is just how the game is played right now. And you're right, Shane, there might just be games being played behind the scenes. Look, maybe Sam Leavitt wants to stay at Arizona State, but Sam Leavitt wants to know what Sam Leavitt's market value is. And so he can go back to Arizona State and say, hey, Ole Miss is willing to pay me this, right? SEC program number 7 is willing to pay me this. Big Ten program number 5 is willing to pay me this. This is what I'm worth compared to what I'm getting paid due to my fair market value. This is what I should earn. And then it's up to Arizona State to be able to open up their pocketbooks and pay him or make the active decision of we are not able to do that and still field a competitive roster in other spots. And then we are going to have to move on because we cannot match that. We wish you the best of luck. There are always games being played. This is not the college football that everybody grew up watching. This is not the same game. This is not the same atmosphere. This is not the same economy. It's all different. And a guy like Sam Leavitt, if he were to enter the transfer portal, if he were to legitimately weigh his options, Shane, would be one of the single most coveted players. And those type of guys get a damn bag. And they usually end up in a great hand-picked situation. Now, maybe he still wants to pick ASU and he still thinks that's the best spot and the connection there is real. But again, there's a human element to this of saying, we all want to be in our best situations possible. And if we had the choice and the chance to do so, I think a lot of people who aren't playing college football who are going to criticize this decision would be doing the same exact thing.
Yeah, again, it would be completely irresponsible not to just look at other options. This is a report at the end of the day, and there's conflicting reports already from his camp. There's a lot of gamesmanship happening. I go back to the thing that I know for a fact. Kenny and Sam have a great relationship. Kenny Dillingham wants Sam Leavitt at Arizona State. That's the thing that matters the most. And so if Kenny wants him, he's going to do everything in his power to keep him. And if that's not enough, Kenny's going to find a way to move on from it, because what we do know for a fact, not for a fact, but 99% fact, is we saw the last Jordan Tyson Sam Leavitt connection. That connection is going to look different next year, regardless of who's passing to who and who's catching the football. So, there's going to be change regardless. To freak out about this right now in a report that we don't even know how much stock to put into it, it would be irresponsible for us as people covering this team, but also irresponsible to yourself as a fan emotionally. You're muted. You're muted. I can't hear you. Okay. He's going to call back in. Yeah, I don't think that it would make a lot of sense for you as a fan to make your decision right now on how you're going to feel about next year. You would be doing yourself a disservice to be worried about what is happening next year when you still have 2 games in on the schedule that you need to win.
Hello.
Hello, there you are.
You can hear me. You can hear me now.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. I wanted to read a super chat from our friend Sweet Prince Kenny, aka Donald, a real OG around here. Always good to see him in chat. Said, I'm putting my 7-year-old in the youth transfer portal. I mean, honestly, I think that's going to become a thing pretty much. I think a lot of youth players, if you look at Arizona high school football, basically there is a transfer portal, especially for kids that are ineligible to play in California. That's a different conversation. I don't know what you were saying in the brief 30 seconds that I was gone. But
I was
I
just
like,
reiterating that it's a disservice to yourself to be anxious about next year when there's still 2 games that
sure.
like again, as I said at the top of the show, Sam wasn't playing the rest of this year anyway. Like,
Yeah.
there's no point in worrying about next year until the season's over. I get it. I understand. It's hard. Sharon, I'm an anxious person too. But the best way to combat that is to think about what you can control. I mean, I guess you can't actually control anything from this situation, but what you can do, and that is just focus on Saturday when they play Colorado with Jeff Sims at quarterback.
Wes Beasy in the chat, father of Champ Westbrooks, so take that into consideration as much as you would like. Says, I think it's Bull and Sam will be here next year. Now, obviously, Wes Beasy not a reporter and obviously not Sam Leavitt. So that's not a guaranteed fact, but I think it is interesting to get a perspective from somebody who's closer to the team than most. Freckle Mamba says 4 more years of Jeff Sims. I wish, brother. I wish Freckle Mamba. Okay, so here's the thing, and I think there's a couple people bringing it up in chat. I know Sean is bringing it up, and I know Wanikin's bringing it up. A lot of people didn't expect Sam Leavitt to be here next year either way.
Yeah,
Now,
at the start of the year, yes.
because he would have presumably gone in the draft if he had a crazy year this year,
If he had a
which
healthy year, probably.
a healthy year. I think so. I think there's still a chance that with a healthy year, that with the way that quarterback development is going in the NFL, and we talked to Fran Duffy about this,
hmm
that quarterback should stay in college for as long as possible. But I do think that a lot of us assumed going into the season that this would be the final year of both Jordan Tyson and Sam Leavitt. We assumed the last game played would be the last time that we see that duo out there on the field. Now, would it sting a little bit more if Sam Leavitt ended up in Oregon or ended up at a different big time university, an SEC, a Big Ten university? Yeah, that would sting. But I would say that if we were looking ahead towards the future without Sam Leavitt at quarterback, do you want to know who else was likely doing that? Kenny Dillingham, Marcus Arroyo, and the Arizona State Sun Devils. Look, this program is not Sam Leavitt. And I say that respectfully with all the things that Sam Leavitt has done for this program. The fact that we wouldn't be where we are right now if we had not had that guy under center for the last year and a half. But Arizona State University is Arizona State University. This football program is led by Kenny Dillingham, who has ensured people that he was never going anywhere, and this is home. If this team cannot be successful in a post-Sam Leavitt era, then Kenny Dillingham is not the guy that we thought he's going to be. And I'll tell you right now, Kenny Dillingham is the guy that we all think that he is. This is something to where they have already been looking towards the future. They have already been weighing their options and looking at what does a quarterback life beyond Sam Leavitt look like. So if you think that Sam Leavitt leaving is going to put this program into the gutter or into the dark place that it was before Kenny Dillingham took over, or in that first year when everything went wrong, I just don't agree with you. I can agree that this would suck and that if Sam Leavitt stays in college football, it would be amazing for us if he stayed, and maybe he might be your best option at quarterback next year. But if anybody's going to figure out that damn position and make sure that Arizona State is still successful and still competing in a wild Big 12 and where the program needs to be going forward, it is Kenny. Kenny is going to be able to navigate you through this. And again, I didn't expect Sam Leavitt or Jordan Tyson to play next year. It wasn't until about halfway through the season that I even began to broach the possibility of Sam Leavitt playing more football for Arizona State. Shane, this is college football. You gain players, you lose players, right? You lost Cam Scattaboo last year. Guess what? Your program can't just be Cam Scattaboo. Your program can't just be Sam Leavitt. It can't just be Jordan Tyson. Not if you want to be who they've been talking about being. You've got to be able to withstand losses and get more gains and find more guys that you can mold into who you need them to be, like you have with those three players.
Yep. Said it perfect, man. It's just, there's, again, like, you're not, it's not like you're losing your franchise quarterback as an NFL team, a guy that's going to be here for 15 years. No, it's a guy that at the start of this year, nobody expected would be back anyway. That being said, like, there's a lot that this team can accomplish with Sam Leavitt at the helm still ahead. And as Wes Beasy said earlier, just look at the way Dilly and Sam look at each other. Like, that should tell you everything. Yeah. They want him back. I'm sure he wants to stay with Kenny. Again, we don't know what is going on behind the scenes. All you can do right now is praise that Kenny, not just 3 days ago, said, I was never leaving. Because you have that guy, and that guy is more important than any player that's coming through these doors because of how good he is at being a head coach of the Power 5 level already at the age of 34.
Yeah. I mean, look, if you asked a lot of Sun Devil fans 3 weeks ago about Kenny Dillingham's future with ASU, there were a lot that were panicking about him returning and coming back, right? Look how much that's changed. Look how different you feel about that right now. Also, I think one of the final points that we can make here before we wrap up on a breaking news edition of PHNX Sun Devils, for the over 100 people that are in here, we will be live again at 1 o'clock today. Anthony Totri, who's currently at practice, watching Jordan Tyson practice for the first time in weeks, he will be here as well. He will give his reaction to the news. Plus, we'll talk about what Arizona State needs to do against Colorado, how Jordan Tyson looked in practice. As Shane said, there are still 2 more games left in the season. Arizona State still has a chance to make the Big 12 championship. We're going to continue to break that down and cover that as we wait for more news on this front. Sergeant Donald, a different Donald in the chat, brings up, didn't Sam give his O-line millions of NIL money? Doesn't seem to me like the guy who has ever cared about money. Sam Leavitt is our QB1 until he or Kenny says otherwise, and then says, God bless Semper Fi. I think also with Sam, you've seen the donations that he has made, not just to his teammates, but, to ASU charities as well. I think it was the Tillman Foundation that he put a pretty hefty chunk of change out there as well. His NIL merch deal, I believe, had a share of that money go to his teammates too. This is a guy who does care. This is a guy who is not only driven by money. Now, money can still be a big factor, and I would say that if Sam Leavitt does leave, it would be for a truly, truly, truly life-changing opportunity, and to be in the position that Sam Leavitt is in right now, for something to be a life-changing opportunity, we're talking about maybe the most money that anybody's going to get paid next year. Like this guy is already in a good situation. ASU is ready to pay him a big amount of money. When we had Graham Rossini on the show before the season started, and for those who are new around here, Graham Rossini is the athletic director at Arizona State. He said that we believe Sam Leavitt is the best player in college football. Do you think you're going to keep the best player in college football around by your eyes by not paying him his market value? Look, this isn't a backup offensive lineman, right? This isn't a backup wide receiver. This isn't just a starting quarterback. This is somebody that for the entire offseason, Anthony Totri and I said on camera, he's going to be in the Heisman conversation. He's going to be the best quarterback of the Big 12. And while the season might have been disappointing for a difference of reasons, he's still shown flashes of being the best player on a football field on a weekly basis. Look, if he leaves, he leaves. This program will be fine. Will it sting? Absolutely. Will it suck? Absolutely. Would we be talking about what would it look like if Sam Leavitt stayed another year under Kenny Dillingham, and how good could this team have been? Absolutely. All of that can be true. But you've got to remember that if Kenny Dillingham cannot survive losing one quarterback at Arizona State, well, then Kenny Dillingham's not the guy we thought he is. And Kenny Dillingham is the guy, and you look at his quarterback history, who makes quarterbacks work. Now, part of that is finding the guys who can make it work themselves and emphasize their talent and finding their right fits. But another part of that is being a damn quarterback whisperer. Sam Leavitt is not the end-all, be-all of Arizona State. but he is one of the biggest pieces of them, if not the biggest piece. And we'll see if he comes back next year. Shane, do you have any final thoughts on the report, on Dallin Leavitt denying it, or just maybe what your jellies tell you about this situation as a whole as we wrap up this breaking news edition of PHNX Sun Devils?
No, just take a breath, everybody. And whatever happens, as long as Kenny is here, everything is going to be just fine. I don't put too much stock into either side. Don't get too high, don't get too low. College football is the biggest roller coaster that there is. So this is, again, it's November 18th. We're still in Big 12 regular season play. Like there's a lot of football to be played in 2025 still. There's no point in to be stressing about the transfer portal and what that's going to bring. Because newsflash, people are going to leave. You're going to lose people in the portal. Regardless of who it is, it's going to happen. There's no point in stressing about it right now. Yeah, just be grateful that you're in this position that you're in right now where you're worried about a top 5 quarterback in the country not coming back or coming back to your school next year. Because in the last 5, 6 couple renditions of this football program, you wouldn't have even been able to get close to that. Jaden Daniels is the last thing that you can even think of with that. So be grateful and donate to NIL if you want to make a difference. Donate, help them keep players like Sam Leavitt.
Yeah, join the Sun Angel Collective. I should have worn my Sun Angel hat to send a message here. For me, this doesn't worry me. And maybe it is because of all that we've talked about today. And I hope we've been able to calm down some ASU fans in the chat who maybe hit that panic button a little bit. If Sam Leavitt leaves, Sam Leavitt leaves. You and I have discussed that. I think in the moment, if that breaking news pod hits, Shane, I will still be not happy about it. I'll be upset about it when we talk about it. That's for sure. It's not nothing. But again, bigger picture, I trust what's going on here. But honestly, my gut doesn't tell me that he's going to leave. I still think that if he's not at Arizona State next year, it's because he decides to go in the draft despite what a lot of us think would be the right decision or the decision he would end up making. That's what my gut tells me. Sam Leavitt needs to do what's best for Sam Leavitt the same way Shane Diefenbach needs to do what's best for Shane Diefenbach. Anthony Totri needs to do what's best for Anthony Totri. Everybody in the chat needs to do what's best for everybody in the chat. It's a tough world out there. There's a lot that's going on, and tomorrow is never promised, especially in your current situation. You got to do what's best for you as a human being. And we got to remember that these are human beings. As frustrating as it might be if Sam Leavitt does end up leaving, or the fact that we are getting reports in the middle of November that Sam Leavitt is doubtful to return, Sam Leavitt was born in 2004. Sam Leavitt is in college right now, is somebody who's still trying to figure out what the best path for them to take in a highly, highly public way, in a way that if he fails, is going to drastically alter what he believes to be the trajectory of his adult life. So you got to understand that this guy needs to weigh his options and do what's best for Sam Leavitt. I do believe that staying at Arizona State is best for Sam Leavitt, but I'm not Sam Leavitt, right? And I don't know the money that's being offered out there, and I don't know the money that's being offered here. But I think a beautiful thing about all of this is that there's going to be a daily show 5 days out of the week during Arizona State's offseason that's going to talk about all of this, that's going to break down the transfer portal news, whether it's Sam Leavitt or whether it's other guys going out, or guess what? There's going to be a lot of guys coming in as well. We have a lot of time that we are going to have to talk about all of this. It's going to be after the season. Certainly, if more news comes out, we will be here for you and we will talk you through it and we will bring you the breaking news. But let's focus on this weekend. Let's focus on Colorado. Let's focus on Jordan Tyson and what's going on there. And for that, PHNX Sun Devils will continue to have you covered later today at 1 o'clock. Anthony Totri will be back. We appreciate a huge crowd showing up for this breaking news pod earlier in the morning. Big shout out to the deli man, Shane Diefenbach, for jumping on here before taking on his Southwest Bias duties. Of course, you can check out Southwest Bias coming up on this channel at 11, and all of our other coverage is, yes, the Arizona State season's going on, so are a lot of other seasons too, and we like to dominate the off season and cover that as well. So we've always got your best Arizona sports coverage right here on PHNX Sports. So you might as well hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, and you could become like a lot of people in chat, like Wes Beasy, who's got a green name and a badge next to his name, who is a member, gets access to exclusive emojis, exclusive content, and you get a prepaid super chat for every month that you remain a member for $5 a month. That basically pays for itself. So thank you all so much for being here. We'll be back at 1 o'clock. You can follow the show at PHNX_Sun Devils for all the latest updates, news, and notes from practice and whatnot about this team and every part of Arizona State athletics. You can follow me at ERIKRUBY. You can follow the Deli Man at Shane Deef.
Just panicking and worrying and freaking out as always because it's the off season, right? Oh, no, it's not.
Oh, it's
Beat
not?
Colorado.
Oh, yeah, let's do that, and let's talk about it later today. Go Devils, and peace.
We all silly like the mayor.